In today's video, we're going to talk about a fascinating topic: the alliances and conflicts that shaped the relationships between Rome and the kingdoms of North Africa. Over the centuries, Rome fought epic battles, signed strategic treaties, and faced formidable challenges from this rich and diverse region. We'll explore episodes such as the tensions with Carthage, the intricate alliance politics with kingdoms like Numidia, and the decisive confrontations that determined the fate of both sides. These stories are full of intrigue, betrayal, and heroism. And that's what we're going to uncover together today. Get ready for a journey through time, where we'll discover how these relationships shaped history and left a lasting legacy. Let's go. The rise of Rome and the gaze towards North Africa. From its origins as a small city-state, Rome had grand ambitions. Over time, Rome began to expand its territory and influence, and its eyes inevitably turned towards North Africa. This region, rich in resources and strategically located, represented both an opportunity and a challenge for the Romans. The initial interactions were commercial, but Rome's expansionist policies soon turned these peaceful contacts into military confrontations. Rome's rise as a global power occurred amid constant wars and alliances. The Roman Republic was determined to dominate the Mediterranean, and North Africa was a crucial point in this strategy. The desire to control trade routes and the region's wealth drove Rome to engage in a series of military campaigns. Agricultural riches, especially wheat, were vital to sustaining Rome's growing population. Significant early contacts between Rome and the kingdoms of North Africa occurred during the Punic Wars, a series of conflicts between Rome and Carthage. This period was marked by intense fighting and dynamic shifts in power. The First Punic War began in 264 BC and lasted 23 years, featuring epic battles that tested the military capabilities of both sides. Rome's victory in the First Punic War established a power base in North Africa. With the end of the Punic Wars, Rome began to consolidate its control over the conquered regions. The Roman presence in North Africa intensified, and the relationship between the Romans and the native peoples was shaped by both confrontations and strategic alliances. The Romans established colonies and outposts, increasingly integrating the region into their vast empire. These actions were accompanied by a systematic effort of Romanization, imposing Roman culture and values on the local peoples. This expansion and consolidation of Roman power in North Africa did not occur without resistance. Local kingdoms and tribes frequently rose against Roman domination, resulting in a series of conflicts that would continue to define the relationship between Rome and North Africa for centuries. Despite the challenges, Rome managed to maintain and expand its influence, paving the way for a new era of complex interactions with the diverse cultures and powers of the region. Carthage. Friendship and enmity over the centuries. Carthage, founded by the Phoenicians, became one of the greatest powers of the Mediterranean before Rome rose as an empire. The relations between Rome and Carthage were marked by periods of cooperation and conflict. Initially, both cities maintained mutually beneficial trade relations. However, as their ambitions grew, rivalry between them became inevitable. The Punic Wars were the pinnacle of this enmity, leaving an indelible mark on the history of both civilizations. The First Punic War, 264 to 241 BC, began as a dispute over control of Sicily, an island strategically located between Italy and North Africa. The war lasted 23 years and was marked by massive naval battles, with both powers demonstrating their military capabilities. Rome's victory in this war brought about a new geopolitical reality, with Rome establishing its first province outside the Italian peninsula, Sicily. This conflict also left Carthage weakened and forced to pay heavy indemnities to Rome. The Second Punic War, 218 to 201 BC, is perhaps the most famous of the three, mainly due to the feats of the Carthaginian general Hannibal Barca. Hannibal crossed the Alps with his war elephants, a daring maneuver still remembered today as one of the greatest military achievements in history. He inflicted several devastating defeats on the Romans, including the famous Battle of Cannae. However, the lack of logistical support and reinforcements, along with Roman resilience, eventually led to Carthage's defeat. Rome's victory in this war solidified its position as the dominant power in the Western Mediterranean. The Third Punic War, 149 to 146 BC, was shorter but equally decisive. Determined to eliminate the Carthaginian threat once and for all, Rome besieged Carthage. After a brutal siege, the city was finally captured and destroyed in 146 BC. The survivors were sold into slavery, and Carthaginian territory was transformed into the Roman province of Africa. This final act not only eliminated Carthage as a rival, but also allowed Rome to expand its direct control over North Africa. Despite Carthage's destruction, Phoenician influence remained in the region, and the relationship between the Romans and the local peoples continued to evolve. Carthaginian culture and economy left a lasting legacy that Rome had to integrate and manage. The memory of the Punic Wars also continued to shape Roman policy and strategy in North Africa, influencing its future interactions with other kingdoms and tribes in the region. This combination of initial friendship and devastating enmity between Rome and Carthage illustrates the complexity of international relations in antiquity. The alliances and conflicts between these two powers left a deep mark on Mediterranean history, influencing power dynamics for centuries. Numidia and the Dance of Alliances. Numidia, located in the region that corresponds to present-day Algeria and parts of Tunisia, played a crucial role in the relations between Rome and North Africa. This Berber kingdom was known for its military prowess, especially in cavalry. During the Punic Wars, Numidia oscillated between alliances with Carthage and Rome, depending on the strategic advantages offered by each side. The central figure of this period was Massinissa, the king of Numidia, whose loyalty proved decisive for the fate of Carthage. Massinissa began his career by siding with Carthage, but later switched allegiance to support Rome. This strategic move occurred during the Second Punic War when he recognized that Rome's rise offered greater opportunities for expansion and security for his own kingdom. His alliance with Rome was rewarded after Carthage's defeat when Numidia received additional territories and a privileged ally status. Massinissa became a key figure in Roman politics in North Africa. After Massinissa's death, his son Micipsa took the throne, but internal power struggles continued to characterize Numidian politics. Jugurtha, one of Massinissa's grandsons, emerged as a dominant figure after a series of dynastic conflicts. Jugurtha initially tried to maintain the alliance with Rome, but tensions rose due to territorial and power issues. Eventually, Jugurtha entered into direct conflict with Rome, resulting in the Jugurthine War, 112 to 105 BC. The Jugurthine War revealed the complexities and fragilities of alliances between Rome and African kingdoms. Jugurtha managed to resist for a long period, using guerrilla tactics and exploiting corruption within Roman politics. However, Rome's determination and the reorganization of its forces under generals like Gaius Marius and Lucius Cornelius Sulla led to Jugurtha's capture. This conflict resulted in the consolidation of Roman control over Numidia, which came to be governed by client kings loyal to Rome. Despite the tensions and conflicts, the relationship between Rome and Numidia had lasting impacts. Numidia provided vital cavalry and auxiliary troops for the Roman army in various subsequent campaigns. The integration of Numidia into Rome's sphere of influence also facilitated the spread of Roman culture in the region, resulting in a cultural syncretism that endured for centuries. The alliances formed during this period demonstrate how the diplomatic and military relations between Rome and the kingdoms of North Africa were dynamic and frequently reassessed. War and peace, treaties and betrayals. The relationships between Rome and the kingdoms of North Africa were constantly marked by a cycle of wars, treaties, and betrayals. Each peace agreement or alliance was steeped in distrust and conflicting interests. The treaties signed between Rome and the African kingdoms often served as a way to consolidate power and buy time for future military campaigns. However, these alliances were fragile and often broken when one party saw a strategic opportunity to advance its own interests. One of the earliest significant examples of treaties was the Treaty of Ebro, signed between Rome and Carthage in 226 BC. This agreement established the Ebro River as the dividing line of spheres of influence in the Western Mediterranean. However, the capture of Saguntum, an ally of Rome, by the Carthaginians in 219 BC violated this treaty, triggering the Second Punic War. This incident illustrates how treaties often served more as temporary tools of convenience than as lasting guarantees of peace. Another notable example is the treaty between Rome and Massinissa of Numidia. After the Second Punic War, Massinissa was awarded additional lands as a reward for his support of Rome. However, this agreement generated ongoing tensions with Carthage, which saw Numidia's expansion as a direct threat. Carthaginian complaints about Massinissa's incursions were ignored by Rome, which used Numidia as a pressure tool against Carthage. This scenario culminated in the Third Punic War, demonstrating how treaties often sowed the seeds of future conflicts. The Jugurthine War is another classic example of betrayals and shifting alliances. Jugurtha initially sought to maintain good relations with Rome, but corruption and political intrigue led to a prolonged war. Jugurtha managed, for a time, to bribe Roman officials to maintain his position. However, the eventual capture and execution of Jugurtha demonstrated Rome's determination to re-establish its authority and eliminate local leaders who proved disloyal. These treaties and alliances often involved not only territorial issues but also promises of military and economic assistance. Political instability in the North African kingdoms often led local leaders to seek Rome's support to consolidate their power. In return, Rome demanded loyalty and the provision of auxiliary troops. However, the power dynamics in the region meant that these alliances could be quickly undone if a strategic gain opportunity arose. The intrigues and betrayals that permeated these treaties profoundly shaped the relationships between Rome and the kingdoms of North Africa. The fragile alliances and the constant threat of war created an environment where diplomacy was often used as an extension of military strategy. This complex web of treaties and betrayals underscores the volatile nature of international relations in antiquity, where the pursuit of power and survival often overshadowed loyalty and trust. Heroes and villains, central figures in the conflicts. The history of relations between Rome and the kingdoms of North Africa is punctuated by characters whose actions shaped the destiny of both sides. These heroes and villains played crucial roles in wars, alliances, and betrayals, and their stories are full of bravery, cunning, and sometimes tragedy. Among these figures are Hannibal, Massinissa, Jugurtha, and Scipio Africanus, each leaving a lasting legacy in history. Hannibal Barca, the famous Carthaginian general, is perhaps the most iconic figure in the conflicts between Rome and Carthage. His daring crossing of the Alps with an army that included war elephants is one of the most audacious military maneuvers in history. Hannibal inflicted several crushing defeats on the Romans, including the famous Battle of Cannae. Although his campaign in Italy was initially victorious, a lack of support and resources, as well as Rome's strategic response, eventually led to his defeat. Hannibal's tenacity and skill continue to be studied and admired to this day. Massinissa, the king of Numidia, is another central figure. Initially an ally of Carthage, he switched his loyalty to Rome during the Second Punic War. His cavalry was crucial in the Battle of Zama, where the Romans defeated Hannibal. After the war, Massinissa expanded his kingdom with Roman support, becoming a powerful and influential ally. His ability to navigate the complex power relations and his vision for his kingdom's future highlight him as a shrewd and strategic leader. Jugurtha, Massinissa's grandson, represents a tragic and controversial figure. He rose to power in Numidia through intrigue and assassination and initially tried to maintain good relations with Rome. However, his ambition and the corruption within Roman politics led to conflict. The Jugurthine War exposed corruption in the Roman Senate and culminated in Jugurtha's capture, who was paraded in triumph in Rome before being executed. His story highlights the complexities and betrayals that marked Roman relations with African kingdoms. Scipio Africanus, also known as Scipio the Elder, is another hero of these wars. As a Roman commander, he defeated Hannibal at the Battle of Zama, bringing a decisive end to the Second Punic War. His tactical skills and ability to adapt to challenges made him a central figure in Roman expansion. Scipio Africanus is remembered as one of Rome's greatest generals, and his legacy influenced future generations of military leaders. These central figures, with their virtues and flaws, shaped the course of events between Rome and the kingdoms of North Africa. Their stories of bravery, cunning, and sometimes tragedy illustrate the complex dynamics of power, loyalty, and betrayal that define this era. They are remembered not only for their feats in battle, but also for the lasting impact they had on the relations between these two great civilizations. The legacy of relations between Rome and North Africa. The relations between Rome and the kingdoms of North Africa left a profound and lasting legacy that extends beyond battles and treaties. This legacy can be seen in cultural influence, political changes, and infrastructures that have survived over the centuries. The interaction between these civilizations created a unique fusion of cultures that shaped the region's development. One of the most visible legacies is the Romanization of North Africa. Rome established several colonies and cities in the region, such as Carthage, rebuilt after its destruction, Leptis Magna, and Thuga. These cities became centers of administration, commerce, and culture, spreading Roman architecture, language, and customs. The amphitheaters, baths, and roads built by the Romans still stand as witnesses to Rome's lasting influence in the region. The integration of Numidia and other African kingdoms into the Roman Empire brought not only political stability but also economic prosperity. North Africa became one of the main sources of grain for Rome, sustaining the capital's population and contributing to the imperial economy. Intensive agriculture and irrigation techniques introduced by the Romans transformed the landscape and productivity of the region, with effects that lasted for centuries. Culturally, the fusion between Roman and African traditions created a unique heritage. Roman religion mixed with local practices, resulting in a rich tapestry of beliefs and cults. Art and literature also reflected this blend, with Roman influences permeating African cultural production. The Latin language became the lingua franca in many areas, facilitating administration and the integration of diverse communities. However, the legacy of relations between Rome and North Africa was not without conflicts and challenges. Local rebellions and resistance against Roman domination continued to occur, reflecting underlying tensions. The rebellion of Tacfarinas, for instance, in the early 1st century AD, was a significant uprising against Roman occupation. These revolts show that despite Romanization, there was persistent resistance to complete assimilation. The decline of the Roman Empire also had profound impacts on North Africa. With the weakening of Rome's central power, the region saw the rise of new local powers and eventual conquest by the Vandals in the 5th century AD. However, Roman influence continued to be felt, and many advancements and structures introduced by Rome were incorporated and adapted by the new rulers. The legacy of relations between Rome and North Africa is, therefore, multifaceted. It encompasses economic transformation, cultural changes, and political structures that shaped the region. The interaction between these civilizations left an indelible mark on history, a story of conflicts, alliances, and a legacy that continues to be studied and admired to this day.